Okay, great, good. Thank you, Casper, and a very warm welcome to everyone for joining this kickoff seminar on the mega project on sustainable living. Of course, first of all, I would like to also extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Ayodele Odusola. He's the United Nations Development Programme resident representative to South Africa. Thank you very much for joining. I also would like to have a special welcome to our speakers, Sinisha Munsami and Alvaro Mpofu. Sinisha, she's the head of Innovation, Skills and Development at TIA, but also to Pierre Kil, the CEO of Open Remote, and to Ad Vlems, the founder of EcoVillage. I hope you can all see the slides. I would like to thank specifically our colleagues from the Fontys University of Applied Science in the Netherlands. Of course, also our colleagues from Pixel University of Applied Science and Arts in Belgium, and our colleagues here also with us at Belgium campus. And to the students who are joining us and the guests who are joining us this afternoon. This project, this pilot project actually is an initiative that followed a number of other international projects that we are doing with these wonderful colleagues from Fontys and PXL, like for example, the BIS IT Weeks, but we also got together with them, but also with the University of Jeda and the Oberösterreich, the minor in global acting. Unfortunately, of course, because of the corona pandemic, international travel is not possible, and we are happy then that we can kick off with this new initiative and where we then can take a look at how we can work together during one semester around sustainable living, this mega project. Let me see. So, of course, why do we have this mega project? What is it also that we try to envisage, and what is it also that we try to do? Is that well, we all know that we are living in a very complicated world, and we see already for many years that the borders have eroded. Big company capitalism rules. Organizations continue to grow bigger, but they also move to different parts of the world. Innovation, you can't think of it anymore. It is everywhere. And often what we see is that innovation is also outspacing regulation. At the same time, climate change, waste, they have most likely the biggest impact on the world. We also see many demographic changes, the migration streams. And what is reality is that, sadly but true, the divide between poor and the rich has become bigger. Yes, we've got access to data. Technology is changing rapidly, and it's also creating a lots of opportunities. We see already for the last number of years opportunities that are coming from the fourth industrial revolution. But I believe there is a need for humaneness. We see that society, climate, sustainability are and have to be the drivers for doing business. And there we are, the COVID-19 pandemic, which hit us about a year ago, and which made us also realize how reliant we are on technology. But what we see is that being online, like now, is most likely the biggest, the most rapid, and the most global change that not only in business, but also specifically education has ever undertaken. What we also sadly see is that those who have not access to technology, no access to the internet, don't have access to a proper place of study, that they are left behind. For the lucky ones of us, this is the new normal. And the question is, will we actually ever go back to the old normal? We can, of course, what we have learned over this last year, we cannot undo this. We have learned how to adapt, how to change rapidly. But at the same time, we see lots of challenges, and we have to realize and we have to admit that we don't have all the solutions. In education, we have to learn still a lot. The old pedagogical methods are not valid anymore. And if we take a look at my previous slide and we take a look at how complex the world is and how we need to connect not just in the triple helix, not just also, with society, but taking a look at the drivers of change, we actually have to understand that we need to really create new solutions to make this all sustainable. And we need to do this in these uncertain times, where we have to rely on virtual context whilst we actually long to physical context. In this virtual world where we are individuals within our room, we have to build an understanding and an appreciation of what's happening around us. We have to build and actually get that understanding and that appreciation of what the needs are of others. Yes, knowledge is there. There is new knowledge being created. We've got access to knowledge with just a click to the bottom, a swipe left or right, up or down. We have access to that. But what we also see is that what we have learned most of the time in our first year is already outdated and old by the time that we graduate. So how do we connect? How do we create an active learning environment? How do we create that experience, the meeting of minds, building that appreciation in order to be able to come up with sustainable and relevant and these much needed solutions? So there is the need there to build global competence. The world today, tomorrow, the uncertain future in education, we need to actually have graduates who are job ready and who understand the environment that they are going to come in. So knowledge is very important. Access to knowledge is very important. But having the skills, the attitudes and the behaviors to thrive in today's world is very important. We need therefore to be able to make connections. Even in this virtual world, we need to create the respect, the understanding, and collaboratively create and critically evaluate solutions. So this mega project envisages to bring and connect students from different backgrounds together in a virtual environment for one semester. I hope it's not going to stay with this one semester alone, but that bonds are created also for life. I'm happy that although we are with these three universities, and I see many other universities joining us also here today, and research groups joining us here today, that the students who have registered for this, they are not only from Belgium, they are not only from the Netherlands, they are not only from South Africa, but they are from Greater Europe, they are from Greater Africa, and they are also from Asia. The mega project exists out different components with formal classes once a week, where we talk a lot around innovation, but how do you engineer solutions across cultures? And then, of course, besides the classes, you as a student and the students present here today, that you have to connect with each other. You have to come to an agreement of what is the solution that you're going to work on, with the challenges that you receive from the participating companies. So you will create lots and many interactions with the students, but also with the companies, and root your project on sustainability, hence also the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. At the end, you will present your solution and also what you have learned and how you have experienced this semester at a student conference. and where we will have not only this group, but also many others joining. So students, thank you and congratulations for being here today, for having this wonderful start to your projects, to find out and learn more about the challenges, to find out and learn more about what sustainability means, what it also means to work together with society and create solutions for society. I would say, you know, have a lot of fun, enjoy your time together with your colleagues, be creative. So thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker for this afternoon, Dr. Odussola. He's the resident representative of the United Nations Development Program to South Africa. Dr. Odussola provides expertise in the development strategy, policy analysis, and has extensive knowledge of Africa's economics. He has supported many African countries to prepare their national development plan, their visions, and their growth strategies. So, Doctor, thank you very much for having accepted this invitation and for joining us this afternoon. I greatly and thankfully hand over to you. Thank you.
Is the spotlight on Xolela, is that meant to be there, or should I put the spotlight on Dr. Ayodele Odussola?
It's meant to be on Dr. Adio, not on the one you currently have it on. There you go. That's correct.
There we go. You're now in the spotlight, Dr. Ayodele. Well, very welcome. So please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, colleagues. I would say it's really a privilege to be part of this initiative. And I just want to use the opportunity to congratulate the organizers of this particular novel event. And I want to sincerely say thank you to all, and particularly the institutions that are fully involved in this particular collaboration. The Belgium campus of IUT University, the Fortis University of Applied Sciences, the PXL University of Applied Sciences and Art, and many other actors, particularly the Innovation Skills Development Center, which is TIA, the Open Remote, and the Eco Village. I really appreciate the kind of innovation you brought on board to ensuring that innovation like this is profiled and at the same time popularized for us to be able to really add a number of innovative ideas into the operationalization of the Sustainable Development Goals. I just want to say that I'm pleased to be part of this kickoff event of the mega project, which is a partnership among multiple institutions, those that I've mentioned. This is an initiative that is shifting the frontier of market-ready graduates, aligning theory with know-how, practical skills, and labor market context. I really see this initiative as something that is very novel and very critical for us to really actualize and operationalize the Sustainable Development Goal. To this effect, the mega project focuses on one of the principles guiding the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG, which is partnership. It also helps to forge collaboration, interaction, and engagement of multiple players on how to promote innovation in waste management and smart cities, also enabling another SDG principle, the planet. My speech will focus on three main areas, namely UNDP's role in South Africa in the context of our accelerator lab, which is akin to this mega project. Second, on the importance of science, technology, and innovation in achieving the SDGs. And finally, the potential synergy between what we are launching today and what UNDP is doing in South Africa. Well, let me just kick off with the first idea in terms of the UNDP's role in South Africa. The United Nations Development Program is the United Nations Global Development Agency that provides an integrator function in support of countries and their efforts in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The SDG comprises 17 goals, 169 targets, and 231 indicators, with the overriding vision of eliminating poverty and drastically reducing inequality and exclusion by 2030. The SDGs are designed as a global blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all by 2030. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the implementation of the SDGs builds on the 3 pillars of economic, social, and environmental pillars, is guided by 5 principles called the people, prosperity, the planet, peace, and partnership. These 5 P's constitute what we call the overarching principle governing the operationalization of the Sustainable Development Goals all over the world. And as earlier mentioned, the mega project touches directly on 2 of the principles, the planet and partnership. I just want to re-echo the fact that the 17 SDGs are integrated, indivisible, and interdependent. The architects of the Sustainable Development Goals recognize that action in one area will affect outcomes in another, and that development must balance social, economic, and environmental pillars for it to be inclusive and sustainable. And as a result of this, it's really very important for us to really know within the UN framework that the SDG has a lot of things that we need to watch out for. It allows for synergy, but also there are so many areas where there are conflicting ideas, which we call trade-offs, where the progress in one may weaken progress in another. And that's why we think the idea of system thinking as being adopted through this mega initiative becomes critical. UNDP's work in South Africa, as articulated in our country program document 2020 to 2025, and guided by the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, bringing all the 17 UN agencies in South Africa together, is centered on overcoming 3 threats of unemployment, poverty, and inequality, which are the overarching goals of the Sustainable Development Goals. The anchor of our work in South Africa is youth and women empowerment and employment. And the country program focuses on 3 key areas, namely inclusive, just, and sustainable economic growth, of which the circular economy, which is akin to this mega initiative focusing on the waste management, is part of. The second one is effective, efficient, and transformative governance. And the third one is climate resilience and sustainably managed natural resources. An important enabler of our work in South Africa is innovation. We in UNDP view innovation as key in overcoming South Africa's triple development challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. As such, innovation, as we all know, has multiple definitions, but for the purpose of this event, it is essentially about the creation of new value through ideas or actions that solve a problem in a way never done before. And our Accelerator Lab is one of such ideas. The UNDP Accelerator Lab in South Africa is one of the things we use to operationalize the SDG. And to us, we believe to accelerate the SDG, the achievement of the SDG, UNDP is investing in innovation, both externally and internally. An example of this is the formation of the Accelerator Lab, which draws on innovation, system thinking, design thinking, experimentation, and collective intelligence to discover novel solutions. The UNDP Accelerator Lab, which we christened ACLab, have been set up in 90 developing countries globally and serving 114 countries, because a few countries are clustered together. Our labs are innovations without borders. It focuses on co-creation and co-ownership of development solutions. The labs are based on 3 core premises, which I would like to share with you now. Firstly, it uses the African adage that you do not shave people's head in their absence. It is premised on the need to diversify the way we understand development challenges by mobilizing a wide range of information, ideas, insights, and bringing voices of the marginalized and vulnerable people into development planning and management. Secondly, it is anchored on the general axiom of only the wearer knows where the shoe pinches. The lab underscores the need to identify and promote user-led solutions designed by people themselves in the face of development challenges, and they are best suited to know what works for them. This allows such development solutions to be more likely to replicate and scale up within society. And finally, the third principle is anchored on what we consider to be one of the real aspects of development landscape, which is learning by doing through experimentation. This underscores the need to take calculated chances and see quickly failures as opportunities to learn quickly. One of the things our ACT Lab is proposing is that we shouldn't be scared of failure at all, because failure is the stepping stone to avalanche of opportunities. And that this is one of the things why we think the mega project is one of the novel things that we need to really promote within academic communities, like those that are participating in this particular one. What we strongly believe that to deal with development, the dynamic nature of development, the lab helps to accelerate learning by operating within a global network where each lab learns from the rest by exploring multiple solutions in parallel and by designing portfolios of experiments. In fact, this is based on the body of experiment. And being part of a global and highly integrated network, each lab draws inspiration from both local solutions and solutions identified by networks. The ACT Lab, which we are really focusing on, works on development challenges in parallel and benefiting from each other's learning in real time, creating a powerful collective learning effect. An important lesson from this exercise is that new approaches abound in communities. Our local innovators and our local entrepreneurs, and the same thing with this mega project, which we strongly believe the students that will benefit from this are likely to be the drivers of innovations to come in the next 10 or 20 years. And we strongly believe is a very right step in the right direction. And this takes me to the third idea, which is the importance of science, technology, innovation, STI, in achieving the SDGs. The SDGs are integrated approach, as I've mentioned earlier on, to development management. It therefore helps to galvanize efforts towards promoting indivisibility, breaking silos, whole of society approach, and system thinking approach to manage a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous development context, which we call the VUCA development context. By integration approach, the SDG enjoins us to step out of our comfort zones when innovating development solutions. One of the reasons why our past innovation have become sterile is that we do not want to step out of our comfort zones by integrating ideas from others, integrating experiences from others in making sure that we apply new knowledge, new experiences in new ways and context by integrating other people's idea, learning, viewpoints, and partnership orientation into development solutions. Therefore, STI is a critical component of accelerating the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals over the next year, and we see it as being critical component of Sustainable Development Goal 9, which is about the issue of infrastructure and innovation, and on SDG 17, which is on partnership. And again, it is also serving as an enabler to other goals. They help to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of new and more inclusive, sustainable ways of achieving development. Like I mentioned, why SDG 9 encourages domestic technology development, research and innovation, and enhancement of technological capabilities in the industrial sector. SDG 7 underscores the imperative of forging strategic partnership with STI actors, including the UN Technology Bank and other relevant institutions, like the 4 institutions that are participating in these mega projects today. STI is also a means to achieve most of the SDGs. Without appropriate investment in STIs, it will be difficult for us to accelerate access to quality education, healthcare services, water and sanitation. COVID-19 has really brought the imperative of these to bear in recent times. Accelerate reduction in hunger, poverty, inequality, including gender inequality, will definitely become challenging if we do not really take STI very seriously. Promote decent jobs, inclusive industrialization and infrastructural development. Also to tame, it will be difficult to tame challenges of climate change, extinction of our cherished national assets, including forests, animals, and rivers, and promote inclusive governance, peaceful coexistence, and stability of nations. For STI to be congenial to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, it must meet the following criteria. 1, it must be SDG-oriented innovation. That is, it must be socially inclusive and environmentally sustainable. It must be proper, trying to focus on how marginalized groups be integrated into the mainstream. It must be grassroots-based innovations. It must be able to strike a balance between technological and social integration. In recent times, more effort is being placed on technological innovation as opposed to social integration. And finally, it must be digitally open and collaborative innovation. And permit me in this, in concluding segment, that the importance of cross-sector partnership in achieving the SDG is long overdue. The fundamental core of good partnership is the ability to bring together diverse resources in ways that can together achieve more impact, greater sustainability, and increased value to all. This includes forging multiple stakeholder partnerships that mobilize and share knowledge, expertise, technology, financial resources to support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. I would like to share some of the examples that help us break the silos, forge alliance and collaboration, and form platforms for development solutions. The first one in this is the application of a whole society approach to all our projects, including the value chain development and the circular economy project, which we are operating in South Africa, the Youth Entrepreneurship Action Hub, also in South Africa, and building state capability projects involving government, private sector, CSOs, academia, communities, and development partners. The second is linking young innovators across institutions of higher learning through our internship programs. Before I came to assume this position as the resident representative for South Africa, I used to serve as the chief economist for UNDP for all African countries. And while I was there, one of the initiatives that I cultivated, which I've started implementing in South Africa, is bringing interns from most of the highly rated universities across the world, which I started with those in the United States of America. Interns from Harvard, interns from MIT, and interns from Stanford universities, with interns from South African universities, especially from those remote communities. And this is what I have started over the past 18 months, connecting South African interns with interns from all other universities across the world. And I want to use this opportunity to really say the 4 universities that are involved in this particular initiative is a clarion call that we want to invite you to join this internship program so that it helps us to really propel the initiative which we're launching today. The third is using ACLAB to connect rural innovators on transformative development solutions like efforts to address water scarcity in South Africa, an effort to promote circular economy, where we turn waste to wealth. And this is one of the things which I think is really aligns with this mega project. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, achieving the SDGs in the context of a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world requires an intellectual space that is beyond and independent of disciplinary paradigms to grapple with and understand the complexity of the current environment in which we operate. The multidisciplinary and system thinking focus of this project provides an intellectual space for stakeholders to co-create and co-own development solutions. In addition, we will need a whole of society approach where where not only different disciplines are brought together, but all sectors, individuals, communities are interconnected, ensuring that no one is left behind in the articulation and implementation of development policies and programs. This mega project aligns with UNDP's role as the SDG integrator and its approaches in operationalizing the SDG on the ground. I want to use this opportunity to call on the Belgium campus IT Varsity to contribute to our ACLAB Hub grassroots initiative, be part of our internship program that connects young innovators in South Africa across the world, and also to join hands with us on how to operationalize the district development model with the government of South Africa, focusing on business solution centers, public service delivery centers, agricultural and value chain development centers, of which the idea of waste to wealth initiative is considered in the 3 districts that have been piloted, that have been identified by government to kick off this district development model initiative. I just want to use this opportunity again to really thank and appreciate the organizers for this novel idea. You have sown a seed that will help us to operationalize and implement SDGs at the local level. And I so much like the idea of partnership, the idea of collaboration, which is the key to managing development in these days. I just want to say a big thank you, and also to say congratulations to all of you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Odusola. I'm very happy that you could join us today. I think you mentioned a lot of important things besides the SDGs, and you mentioned more SDGs than I realized we were working on. And indeed, collaboration is very important. But I'm also happy that you support and focus on a practical approach in learning, because I think in that way we can address aspects like this much better. And you even mentioned failure as a stepping stone to success. So I appreciate your very realistic approach and holistic approach to learning and solving problems. I would welcome you to stay around for the rest of the session if you have the time. And if not, thank you very much for joining us. I don't really think we have time for questions, so that would be a pity. So I think we're going to continue with the program then, and we're going to introduce the challenges that we have from the different organizations that are participating in this mega project. So first, I'd like to give the floor to Sanisha. Sanisha from the Technology Innovation Agency. And there's two speakers actually, but if I understood correctly, at the start, you're going to introduce Alvera yourself in a minute. Well, actually, I cannot really introduce you because I don't know that much about you. So I'll leave that to you also, if you don't mind. So I am going to put the spotlight on you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And if you want to share a presentation, I think I received a presentation from you also, but if you can share it yourself, that's fine. And if you want me to share it, then please let me know.
Not a problem. Thank you so much. A warm welcome and good afternoon to everyone. I'd just like to thank the Belgian campus and its partners for inviting us to be part of this ecosystem approach in terms of the mega project. I am Sanisha Muntemi from TIA, and we do believe that our greatest opportunities lie in our greatest challenges. And it's for this reason we are partnered with UNIDO.
Sanisha, the sound is really bad. Is there a background noise in your place, or is that the microphone?
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't know if there's anybody. Is that better?
A little bit. Yeah, it sounds like electrical crosstalk, someone says.
Yes, maybe that's better.
Yeah, this is understandable. We still hear some noise, but let's try it like this.
I think everybody looks like they're muted as well.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Quite okay now.
Okay, so just a brief introduction. I am Sanisha Muntemi from the Technology Innovation Agency. I currently head up the Innovation Skills Development Unit, as well as the Global Cleantech Innovation Program. We do believe that our greatest opportunities really lie in the greatest challenges. And it's for this reason we've partnered with UNIDO and the Global Cleantech Innovation Program to roll out a program in South Africa for the past 5 years. So the Technology Innovation Agency is the implementing partner for the program in South Africa. We're really grateful for the opportunity to present today, and we'd like to thank the Belgium campus and its partners for giving us this opportunity. We do believe that any successful innovations relies on entrepreneurs and innovators for all the people that are in the room today. And it really is about strengthening our ecosystem, looking at the right mentors coming on board and the right partners to support our local students and innovators in the country or globally, looking at focusing on the Sustainable Development Goals. I would like to say that I have my colleague with me. His name is Alvera Mpofu, who will basically take us through the landscape as well as the challenges for today. And he's been the TIA strategist, as well as focusing on foresight and innovation, and currently running one of our technology incubators. So Alvera, without anything else, thank you once again, and I'm going to hand over to you. If you can please share your screen.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Okay, good afternoon, and thank you so much, Sanisha, for that introduction. And good afternoon to everybody who's joining this webinar, either here in South Africa or internationally. My name is Alvera Mpofu, as Sanisha has introduced me, and I'll be taking you through one of the challenges that form part of the mega project going forward for the next 3 to 4 months. So when we look at the Technology Innovation Agency, we see that it's predicated mainly on 2 things. Number one, the need for South Africa to have its own institution that is able to translate knowledge resources into sustainable innovations that can address, as Dr. Ayodele has been mentioning, the triple threat challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Therefore, the vision of the Technology Innovation Agency set out to be a leading innovation agency that stimulates and supports technological innovation to improve the quality of life for all South Africans. And this, as you know, that we've got the highest rates of inequality across the whole world. This is something that underpins the activities that TIA does. And this is spelled out in its mission, in which it seeks to facilitate the translation of South Africa's knowledge resources into sustainable socio-economic opportunities. TIA has repositioned its strategy for the next 5 years and is focusing mainly on these 3 strategic outcomes. Number 1, it will be to commercialize innovations that it supports. Number 2 is delivering on the Department of Science and Innovation's bioeconomics strategy that focuses on 3 principal areas, which is industrial biotechnology, health biotechnology, and agricultural biotechnology as well. And the 3rd strategic outcome that TIA focuses on is how it can assist small, medium, and micro enterprises through strategically informed and regionally distributed technology stations. Now, at these technology stations, that's where you would find the adequate skills, infrastructure, and expertise in terms of enabling innovators to be able to progress their technologies along the innovation value chain. So when we begin to look at the challenge that we believe the students can be looking into solving, our stream that we have been assigned is the waste management stream. And the context in South Africa is as such that every single person in our total population of 57 million people generates up to 2.5 kilograms of waste per day on average, depending on their income level. South Africans generate roughly 54.2 million tons of general waste per year. This would be from the municipal waste, commercial waste, and as well industrial waste. And 90% of all of this waste that is being generated is sent to landfills, with approximately 3 to 5% being recycled. And if you compare this against what we find across the world, and mainly in Europe, you would find that 70% is sent to landfills, 19% is recycled, and 11% is where we find waste material recovery activities taking place. And the very shocking statistic for us who are here in Gauteng, and this was something that was being discussed earlier in Gauteng, is that Gauteng has not licensed a single new landfill facility for the last 24 years. And during this time, we've all lived under this illusion that we need to and can feasibly recover 70% of municipal waste streams generated. And this hasn't happened. And if you look at it, we are lagging behind in terms of adopting a rich policy mix, policy and technology mix, beg your pardon there, that would catalyze the sector. You're finding that there's so much engagement around policy formulation, but the enabling technologies and the policies that enable those technologies to be deployed in the market is largely lagging behind because there isn't enough impetus and incentive being given to the private sector by national government in order for them to really catalyze this waste management sector. Legislation over the years from 1989 has been migrating. And I think this is a positive development. From 1989, we moved from the age of focusing on landfills to the emergence of recycling in 2001. And currently, our latest positioning is the drive for extended producer responsibility, which is beginning to find expression within the tire industry. And I think the other industries that are posed for policy reforms would be around papers, plastic, and e-waste, which are the emerging ones owing to the increase in urbanization throughout South Africa. So despite the progression in policy, landfills, often to open to dump sites, remain the dominant technology solution for managing waste within South Africa. So This now needs to be contextualized against the Sustainable Development Goals, wherein, if you look at goal number 6, as Dr. Ayodele has mentioned, there are 17 SDGs. Goal number 6 right there would be clean water and sanitation. And it's for all participating nations to ensure availability and sustainability of water and sanitation for every single citizen. And underneath that, you would find that there's this new drive that's beginning to find expression and beginning to be evidenced in policy outcomes, which is improved waste management efficiency through the 5 principles of waste reduction, waste reuse, waste recovery, waste recycling, and replenishment. Operation Phagisa, this is a strategic document that was enacted by the Department of Environmental Affairs at the time. This is in 2015. Spelled out the roadmap in which South Africa can begin to institute reforms and catalyze the waste sector in terms of providing sustainable opportunities for SMMEs and as well the integration with private sector to ensure that we can address this waste management challenge we seem to be having at the moment. These 4 substreams were identified, which is bulk industrial waste, municipal waste, product design, and waste minimization, and as well chemical waste. Now, this has begun to intersect with the rising levels of urbanization within our metros. Over the past 10 years, we've seen a surge in urban population growth, and this has led to inefficient collection of disposed waste owing to expanding suburbia and in between city sprawl that has undermined existing physical and social processes in place to deal with waste. The second thing that we have been able to identify is there's insufficient sorting and waste pre-processing infrastructure due to the increased volume of waste. The system is overwhelmed. The municipalities do not have the capacity to process this waste. And the very fact that we haven't had a new landfill site over the last 24 years just begins to exaggerate and demonstrate the size of the problem that we are currently having with regard to waste management. Again, there's been a rise in the consumption of industrialized and heavily packaged foods, leading to increased household waste generation. As income levels are rising, everybody's eating out. There's e-commerce that is also there. And the very fact that the disposable packaging is very convenient for consumers. This has led to challenges because this waste is not finding itself into the landfills, and we're beginning to see pressure being added onto the system. Moreover, increasing income levels have also led to the emergence of new waste streams. And here we're looking at electronic waste. And I think everybody knows that that pre-World Cup period, everybody moved from a CRT TV to a flat screen so that we could see South Africa taking over and winning the World Cup, which didn't happen, but anyway. What then happened is this resulted in a volume of electronic waste. And as technology is moving across and evolving, we are seeing that there's lots of computers and electronic equipment that is being disposed. There's a whole need to have the latest appliance as well that is added pressure in terms of how is such material being disposed. And moreover, with the rise in urbanization, we found that there's poor consumer behavior and industry practices in adopting a shared value system in approaching waste management. You would find that certain communities have an organized plan and certain communities do not have an organized plan. And at the end of the day, you would find that waste is being dumped right next to residential households, which again begins to contaminate the environment and leads to higher levels of pollution. And this is our problem statement for the waste management stream, to say there's a rise in urbanization, and how are we contending with it in terms of finding solutions wherein we can then process waste. So in terms of the challenge, we would then like to ask that the students are able to ideate, research, and prototype a localized waste management solution that takes into account the increasing rate of urbanization. The solution must demonstrate the shift from landfill disposal as a means of waste management, and the solution must be looking at waste prevention and or minimization, waste reuse, waste recycling, and waste material recovery. The solution must also seek to solve the challenges relating to the process of waste, and these are the different types of waste. It could be organic waste or construction waste, e-waste, which is electronic waste, and or plastics and packaging waste. Dr. Adele also mentioned this because, as you are aware, we've got the highest levels of inequality across the world. Therefore, the solution must be able to demonstrate that it is socially inclusive, so that at least all levels of society are able to participate within the ideated solution. Looking at possible technology approaches that could be adopted, we looked at the circular economy as promulgated by WEF. I think there are some interesting learnings because the technologies that they are advocating for are beginning to find expression or have found expression within the private sector. And this is something that the solution should be seeking to augment in order to position itself as something that would be leading and distinct, as we would like that this solution is demonstrated within the live environment in seeking to improve the process of waste management. So the solution may include a data-driven system for waste collection and reverse logistics, so AI, big data, IoT, remote operations. How does it connect waste collectors in order to ensure that the waste transportation process is very smooth? Advanced materials. How does the solution can look at how is waste being reused, and as well, how can we identify technologies that can identify what type of waste material this is, and that would be the Internet of Materials. Autonomous operations for hyper-intelligent sorting systems. This would be key for areas where there's a higher density of waste being generated due to the concentration of people living in that particular neighborhood. The use of connected infrastructure for enabling smarter logistics. And maybe finally, something that is often overlooked is how do we then adopt fintech technologies to reward consumers for behavior in terms of adopting good practices for waste management. This would be something interesting because then at least you can induce a different paradigm that society is adopting in relation to the same. And we hope that this challenge is going to be exciting, and we're looking forward to evaluating and reviewing the solutions that are generated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alvaro and Sinisha. Well, that challenge certainly is challenging and open enough for students to start worrying about the first goal to start with, and then we will go from there. So thank you very much for explaining this to us. Then let's continue to the next challenger, Ad Vlaems from the Eco Village in the lovely Boekel in the Netherlands. We can switch to him and try to, there he is. You're now in the spotlight, Ad.
Yeah, thank you much. I see. My name is Ad Vlaems. I'm the founder of Boekel Eco Village. Here you can show, here you can see my presentation. You can see the area that we're now developing. We want to be a best practice for sustainable living and also a living lab for sustainable innovations. For instance, one of the innovations that we're trying out here is our foundation. We have, for the first time, used a type of concrete without cement. Cement is responsible for 8% of all CO2 output worldwide. So it's very important, and the impact is so big that 3 building magazines already wrote a large article about it. We have a lot of partners we work with, and also with schools we do work, most of it with Fontis, and also a lot of government organizations support us and visit us. At least 11 directors of ministries have visited our area. Here you can see how it looked 1 year ago. In October 2020, last year, the first 12 houses were finished and people are already living there. In April, we're going to finish the next circle of houses, and in July, the final houses will be built. Any eco-village, but especially also ours, has a lot of solutions in it to address each of the global goals. And also what's nice, that each element has a positive impact on multiple sustainable development goals. We gather all these solutions in the Global Goals community, which is a platform, an online platform for citizens to gather all kinds of practical solutions that are open source, that can be used anywhere. And we also share them with a lot of networks that we work with. But now we are going to talk about one of the things we are going to use. We also focus on healthy environment. Our houses are, as they are, very healthy, and the insurance company who supports us has put a lot of sensors in our houses. And here you can see of our house, the sensor. It locates how the temperature is, the humidity, the air pressure, the CO2, the toxic fumes, fine particles, CO, NO2, and ozone. And together they also give a direction of how virus-proof our house is. Our house is also a test center, so we have one sensor at the dining table, we have one at the bedroom, and we have one at the bedroom of our son. And here you can see the first circle that's already finished. In each of these houses, or in most of the houses, I should say, there's at least one of these sensors that we can use to view how the air quality is. Now, the optimum is that everything is green and the virus index is either 1 or 2. Today it was too dry, and you can see that the humidity is 24.8. And if we can see the monthly overview of humidity, then you can see that due to it's freezing outside, the humidity outside is also very low. Now, what my challenge is for you is to design a best friend who knows me very well and who gets information from all these sensors, and also gets information from, for instance, weather forecast, but also from health tables, but also has its own solution database in each of these for each of these solutions, and it knows very well my own preference. Now, for instance, when it's too dry, it can suggest a number of things. For instance, if you hang wet towels, it will improve. But we've already tried that, and it didn't improve a lot, so that's not a very functional thing. Opening windows is also not a possibility, because on the ground floor we don't have windows because our houses are very well insulated. You could try putting a water tray on a radiator, but we don't have radiators, we have floor heating. And all of these things the artificial intelligence program knows. I could buy a humidifier, but I prefer not to use high tech. At first, I prefer to use low tech. And as it knows that, it suggests to me to buy plants that humidify the air. Now, the app should be very well protected, so it cannot be hacked, because if someone uses it and it gets known that its privacy is being able to be hacked, then nobody will use it. So we want it to be very secure. So I'm hoping that a number of you will help me design my best friend, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Art. Art managed to include all the study programs that all the students are in, so that is very well done to start with already. Still a big challenge though, so we're very interested in what the students will come up with.
Me too.
Yeah. Then let's go to the last challenger, Pierre.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon. I'm Pierre Kil. I'm last but not least, I hope. So we'd like to introduce briefly OpenRemote. So I'm working for OpenRemote, which is an open source. Let me share a screen.
Yeah.
You can still all see this in presentation mode. Yeah. What we'd like to bring in today is a challenge related to designing an off-grid energy solution. And of course, I'll explain that, but let me first introduce myself and OpenRemote. Just briefly, one slide. So we are an open source project, a software project. So we're a software company. And what we do is we have an open source tool set which would allow you to connect different kind of sensors or actuators and put them into one system and add logic to that. So just a simple example would be, as Art just shared, for example, connect a humidity sensor. And then, for example, with logic, say, well, if the humidity sensor, and this doesn't make sense, obviously, but if the humidity sensor, it would be above 90%, then turn on the lights to red, for example. And our platform would allow users to program that, and it's open source. With that as a very brief background, the topic of today, what we see as a challenge is that we see quite a few applications around energy management. So where our software gets used to create a balance between energy which is produced with renewable sources like solar and wind, and on the other hand is being used for, obviously, by consumption, which can range from lighting to heating to cooling to charging electric vehicles, for example, anything which would consume electricity. And to balance the two, in some cases you would want to add a storage device. So a storage device, the picture indicates a battery, which would temporarily store energy you are producing by renewable energy sources at the time you produce more than you consume. And if you have a shortage, for example, at night, then you would obviously be able to use the storage device. And the fourth piece of that would be some kind of optimization. So somewhere you can imagine that through software, you would want to optimize the best moment to charge and discharge your battery. Now, that's in general describing an energy system which we're looking at. But the specific focus would be here asking you to try and design the best possible solution for an off-grid energy solution. And what do we mean with off-grid? That there's no connection, or preferably hardly a connection with the public grid. So the grid which supplies electricity, or if there's a surplus of energy, would take back electricity which you're producing. So in the ideal situation, we would want to remove the connection from the grid. And what we want to ask you is design that. And I won't go through the details which are all on this page. because there will be time later, I hope, to elaborate on that, and please make use of it. We would happily explain more background. But what we've done is split it up in two pieces. The first piece is I would like to invite you to help us designing tools, software tools, which would allow you to design the system to start with. So if you have nothing, can we, through a system tool, a software tool, design a system which means based on your initially expected consumption of energy, design the size of, for example, a solar or wind panel, what you would require to serve that consumption. And could you design a battery, so the size of a storage device which you would need? And obviously, the size would very much depend on how much you want to be independent of the grid. And the most extreme case is 100%. So 100%, which is called autarky, is that you could remove the grid. But that would mean that, for example, you would need, in the worst case scenario, when there's no sun or hardly any sun shining, so in the winter times, that you would still have to produce enough to cover that consumption. And that obviously means that in summertime you have way too much, as the sun would be shining more if you're using sun to produce the electricity. Wind would be, of course, a different thing. So the first question is around, can you think of tools which would help you designing a first setup of a system? So what's the size of solar I need? What's the size of battery I need? And what would be the expectations in terms of being independent, or the level of autarky? We have examples here, so we happily share the slides later. That's the link which is shown on the references. And the second part of the challenge is, okay, now we have a system. But when we have a system, you would want to somehow decide where and when to use the battery. So if I'm still partly connected to the grid, you have a choice. You have a choice when you produce more electricity than you consuming. You can either store it at a battery, or you can still bring it back to the grid. And what's the best decision to make? When do you charge the battery, and when do you discharge the battery instead of using the grid? But the other choice you have is to say, well, for some consumption, like for example, the example given here is, well, assume that your light needs to be on until 10 p.m. in the evening. You need light. Can you ahead of time decide at which light level you would want to run the lights, that you would just have enough on the battery to reach the 10 p.m. time frame? And more specifically around that, and I'm realizing that I'm going way too quick here, but again, we'll have enough time later, is an important piece is in this puzzle is the ability to predict the solar production. So if you install a solar panel, to be able to do some kind of optimization here, predicting the amount of solar power you can generate on a day is a relevant piece of the puzzle. So the question, one of the questions to you is, hey, can you predict the solar production based on the location where you are? And stating that there is a standard model, you can imagine that by using weather predictions, and if you know your panel and how it's located, you could do a first prediction. However, local conditions will very much influence it. And think about, for example, buildings or a tree which is partly in the way, which would reduce the originally expected solar production. And for that part, we're thinking about machine learning techniques, where machine learning techniques can help following the actual production of solar panels, and with that improve the initial predictive model for solar energy. So that's where the second challenge is about, which is obviously much wider than the first one. So looking at basically at how can we optimize towards maximizing the autarky of an off-grid system, or almost off-grid system in that case. Again, here are a couple of references. As mentioned, way too quick here, but I want to, for given time, just want to leave it with this, and obviously there's opportunity to elaborate more on the background and the meaning of these challenges. That's it from my side. Back to you.
Thank you, Pierre. There are questions already in the chat, but I think it's best that you save those for a later talk. Good questions, though, but keep them for a next talk, and we will go to breakout sessions in a minute also, where you can meet your team and maybe also Pierre. Also there today, there's not much time to discuss things, so maybe write down your questions, and then we'll get to that later. Now I'm going to go towards the breakout sessions and a couple of remarks on the organization of the project. Maybe I should take away the stop spotlighting. Oh, now we have Ineke. That's not necessarily meant to, I'll spotlight myself. And then try to open my slides. I'm happy to see that everyone was very fluently with sharing his slides. I'm a bit slower, always. It's always the case. And now the Teams environment is a bit slower. Can you now see the program slide again?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. I have a presenter view, but as long as you see the slides. So what we're looking at here is, I'm going to skip a couple of things, but this is the timeline we're looking at. So we're starting today. We're going to end with a student conference on the 28th of June. And in between, we have this challenging project. So that means for the project, well, you're going to work from a given challenge from the stakeholder towards a solution on sustainability. So it's not easy. So it's not like a school assignment. So you will have to do some preliminary research and analysis first, and then come up with a project proposal that you can then discuss with the stakeholders, and then we can go for the for concept development. So first you work out a concept for a solution, and then you're going to develop a proof of concept for that solution in a couple of iterations. So, and then at the end, you can first transfer your solution to the stakeholder, and then also present your solution and the research outcomes at the final student conference in June. Maybe a remark about the project versus your study program. So together with a mixed team of students from all the participating universities, you're going to work on this sustainability research and concepting and development together as a team. But you are also taking part in a certain study program, a semester or a course. And so from that, you might want to have to include the aspects also. So if you in the project, you also team up with the expertises that you have been taught and that you are learning at this moment. So we have students from artificial intelligence, from software engineering, from cybersecurity, from data science. So you probably need to address those aspects from your studies, and it's good for the project to address those aspects in the project also. So discuss those, bring in those aspects in your team, discuss them, and then embed the results in the team project also. And then, of course, we have the reason why you have chosen for this project, also to learn about international and intercultural aspects. So for that, we're aiming at a global setting, but don't forget to use the local setting that you have available. In South Africa, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, discuss those things together. So have a global view, but use the local setting also. Do be aware of the international aspects. Some might be a bit surprising. For example, there might be different time zones involved as today. The spread is not that large, but still. There might be different schedules, different habits in the communication. So what we want to do and what we want to learn also through this project is to be able to use cultural differences in a positive way. And what we are confident in is that if we combine our efforts and appreciate each other's cultural views, that we can get to a better and more complete solution. So, but for that, you do have to be flexible. So talk about what you think. So people might not automatically understand what you mean because you're from a different side of the world. Also listen very well to what people mean. Ask questions. So do expect to learn new things. More than normal. There will be contact with the stakeholders, so we organize monthly feedback sessions with per challenge. So with two project groups and the coaches. There could be extra appointments. It's not forbidden, but I'll leave that up to the stakeholders and how much time they have. And you could also add some extra field research if you can think of any for more input from subject matter experts on the different areas that are involved here, from other stakeholders, and maybe for interview people from certain target groups to get some input in your thinking also. And what we also offer in the project is extra classes from intercultural communication to intellectual property, talks from multinationals about their experience with development across borders and on sustainability maybe. So some extra classes to support your learning and to address the extra things that normally aren't a part of the education. Maybe a word about the assessment, because you are a student, you will be assessed. So we'll combine a group assessment with the individual assessment. So the group assessment is good because you are working as a team, and it's also to promote the collaboration between each other, and also to make sure that the individual participation is also appreciated. We will take a look at the personal evaluation of the intercultural awareness and the international aspects, also the sustainability, and also, of course, you account for your project contributions, and also for your individual school expertise and learning, so that can be assessed also. We will discuss this more. So I did that rather quickly, but I think it should make sense. So hopefully you could follow that quickly. So now it's about time to meet your team, because you've been listening in and building up questions. And before you can start answering questions, you first need to meet the team members that you will be working with. So what I did already is I randomly assigned students to teams and assigned coaches to the teams. So if you go to the Teams environment for the MEGA project, then you can go to your team's channel, which you will see in a second. You might have seen it already from messages when you were added to the teams. So one of you can start a video session, and then in the channel you can see and then talk to each other. So what I would like you to do is make a short introduction round. We don't have that much time, but please introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you study? Where are you from? And maybe mention the personal interest that you have in this project. So why are you participating in this project? And then the one thing that you want to do is try to make a next appointment or leave communication details of each other and your coach. And maybe if the stakeholder can join in, also maybe you can talk about a next appointment with him or her. So I think you will be able to find the teams, but I will also add the link in the chat. I am a man, so it's a bit difficult to do two things at the same time. That's a nice link. Okay, we have the people of Team 1 and the coach from South Africa, who I haven't met. So if he is here, then he can join the team also in the channel, Kevin Igwe. And Team 2 with the coach. So if you see your name there, then you can go to the Teams channel of Team 2, and one of you can start a video session there. Then Team 3 and 4 for the open remote. The energy transition challenge with Nele from PXL Belgium, and Team 4 with the coach Sam van der Straten, also from PXL Belgium. So if you see your name here, then you can go to the channel of Team 3 or 4. And last, for the Eco Village Challenge on air quality, Team 5 and 6. And Francois is from the Belgium campus, South Africa also. So let's see if this works, and then I would like you to, for a quick wrap up, to join in back here at let's say a quarter past 4 or 5, depending on where you are. Then we have 20 minutes to do this introduction round.